She might be one of the most famous mech warriors of all time, but Natasha Kerensky's mech is very easy to paint. Welcome everyone, I have one more Battletech paint tutorial for you today. It's not quite a speed paint, but the Black Widow Company that features Natasha Kerensky is a fairly easy paint job. And of course, for this one, I had to dig up an old, unpainted, unseen warhammer because she's such a classic figure for the Battletech story. So let's get started right now. As always, we're starting off with a spray primer base. I've got Mechanicus Standard Gray from Games Workshop's Citadel line of paints. And of course, I'm using my custom 3D printed priming tool. I'll put a link to my Etsy store where you can buy the STL files for this particular item. Now before I start painting here, I've got the mech's arms kind of in a funny position, and that's purely to make it easier to paint the inside of them. When it comes game time, I'll move them back into a more appropriate firing position. Now in order to get the kind of black undercoat that Wolf Dragoon mechs are famous for, we're going to build up to that in a series of layers. So the first couple layers are going to be dry brushing some colors on, and then we're going to be applying a dark wash. Our first step is a light gray dry brush. And I'm going to be using Gray Seer from Games Workshop's Citadel line of paints. I'm applying this to maybe 60 or 70% of the mech using a dry brushing technique. For the next step of dry brushing, I'm going to be using silver. I've got Shining Silver from Army Painter's War Paint series. And I'm going to once again apply another layer of dry brush in a similar fashion, but I'm only covering maybe 30-35% of the miniature. Now it's time to build up that flat black color that's kind of serves as the base color for the Wolf Dragoons. What we're not going to do is just apply a simple layer of black because that's kind of boring. The reason we had these first two steps was that we're going to build up the black in a series of washes. And what this will do is it'll darken the mech one layer at a time, and you're going to stop when the mech color is dark enough for you, but you can still see some variation in the base color from those first two steps we applied. I'm taking some Unlight from Cultcraft's line of paints, which is their standard black color, and I'm watering it down about 2 parts water to 1 part paint. Now it's better to start with a thinner wash than a thicker one, because you can always add more layers of the wash. The other key thing to be aware of here is you do want to allow each layer of the wash to dry before you put the next one on. While we're waiting for these layers of paint to dry, I got one random topic to mention here. In case you haven't been watching my other videos on this channel, I spent the last year or so training for the sport of triathlon. It's been a process of learning how to swim a little bit faster, and most importantly, learning how to ride the aero bars. Those things are so much fun. It's like you're flying a telepathically controlled sci-fi starfighter. But the season's almost done here. In about 2 weeks when I'm recording this, I am going to be heading up to northern Michigan to race Ironman 70.3 Michigan alongside Team Hopewater International. And I'm helping them raise some money to complete their mission of drilling wells and planting churches in Kenya. If that sounds like something you might be interested in supporting, you can find a link to learn more about them and how you can help support it financially down in the description of this video. And that donation link should be valid probably until early 2023 in case you don't get around to watch this video until several weeks after Ironman 70.3 Michigan. Alright, well thank you guys for this short break. Now let's head back to the painting. I'm pretty satisfied with how dark the base armor level is. We're going to move on to some of the more interesting design features of this mech. Now feel free to do a Google image search for Natasha Kerensky's Warhammer online, and you can kind of see some of the different ways people paint her mech because there are a few variations. However, they all feature a series of red lines. In my case, I'm going to go with ones on the ankles, 2 on each gun, then 1 on the shoulders, 1 on the SRM launcher, and then 1 on the head. For the base layers of the red, I'm working with Evisceration from Cultcraft's line of paints. It's a blood red color. And from this point on, during the painting process, I'm working with an Artificer layer, extra small brush. There are a few more things we gotta paint with the Evisceration. The first is the Black Widow mark on the center torso. The second is the number 1, which sometimes appears on parts of the mech. And finally, the red circles of the Wolf Dragoons logo. So let's work on those 3 parts right now. So the Evisceration color is a little bit dark for the actual details you find in Wolf Dragoon mechs, but that's done intentionally. Because what we just did there was a base layer. Now I'm going to apply a brighter red color. I've got Rapture from Craft's line of paints, and I'm going to redo everything I just did. However, I'm not going to completely cover up the Evisceration layer. The reason for that is this kind of tells the story that Natasha Kerensky hasn't quite kept up on keeping her mech painted nice and amazingly looking awesome after every battle. So some paint is worn off, other parts have gotten dirty, some battle damage, stuff like that. Also, by doing this strategy, it can hide the fact that maybe you don't have the best brush control. Let's apply some final color details before we move on to some of the battle damage effects. So I'm going to use two colors for this. One is going to be Elementalist from Craft's line of paints. It is a blue color, and I'm going to use that for the PPC barrels as well as the laser barrels. Then when it comes to the cockpit, which I think is a tiny little spot in this mech, I'm going to be going back to the Rapture from Craft's line of paints. And also, just for some more detail, let's actually apply the blue color to the searchlight. Almost never gets used in Battletech, but it is there. And then also, I'm going to apply the Rapture to the covers of the SRM launcher. As usual, I kind of lied a bit. There's one more detail step I want to do. I took a little bit of white, mixed in with the Elementalist, and now I'm just adding that to the tips of the PPCs to give that glowing energy effect, even though they're not going to be firing most of the time. Let's add the searchlight as well. In addition, take some black and do your best to freehand the logo. I've got two forms of battle damage I want to apply to this mech. The first is taking some silver color. I got my Shining Silver from Army Painter's War Paint series once again. And just kind of carefully put this around the edges of several of the armor panels. And this basically looks like the edges of the armor has been chipped away, whether it be laser damage, PPC damage, or just paint wear. The key thing here is don't overdo it. You really can overdo this step and make your mech look awful. The next battle damage is going to be about maybe two spots that are like laser slashes. The first step is take the Shining Silver and draw a thin line across the armor panel where you want the battle damage to be. To help sell the 3D effect, what we're going to do is mix some black in with the silver and put that on the right side of the line, and then mix a little bit of white into the silver and put that on the left side of the line. And with that, I think I'm pretty happy with the final paint job here, and that'll work really well for Natasha Kerensky's battle mech. And that's all you need to finish up your paint job here for Natasha Kerensky. It's a fairly simple one that you can easily recreate yourself if you can find this old Warhammer miniature. Just kidding. It works perfectly well if you have one of the newer ones from the Force Inner Sphere, where the Lances, Lance packs they released last year, or earlier this year, whenever it was, I don't remember. Either way, if you like more of this content, go ahead and hit that subscribe, like button, because whether it's Battletech or apparently now HeroScape, needs to be painted too here when that actually gets around to being released. So, who knows when that's going to be. But that's about all I got for you guys. So I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield. Oh, also I dropped some random triathlon videos on the channel too, because why not? It's fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys sometime soon.